And we are live. Absolutely no technical difficulties whatsoever this morning. No trouble getting up and running at 10 a.m. My name is Matt Savoca at Draftaholic over on Twitter, and we are back at the Stokastic Fantasy Football channel, and we are talking running backs. Arguably the most important position for fantasy football. Breaking it down with me into tiers as we are every single week. Nick Lepri at Notorious FNTSY. Give him a follow, guys. Nick, how are you this fine Wednesday?
I'm doing great this morning. Very excited to break down these running backs and our tiered rankings for them this week. Very excited for week one. Only one day away now. I love it.
Just one short sleep until Rams Bills. Man, that game, what a great start in LA to get us started here. And yeah, absolutely. The running back position, obviously, you got some superstars up top. And if you've listened to any fantasy football content whatsoever over the last few years, you know the old axiom: start your studs. You pick the player in the first two rounds. You're probably playing them, guys, unless something very weird about your league is going on. But we can break it down into tiers, talk about even where the top tier guys sort out for us. So we're going to go into tier one, the S tier, as they say in the gamer community, right, Nick? Right? Hello, fellow youths. I'm fitting right in. Uh, Tier one is just two players for me: Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry. That's it. How do you feel?
I like that. I added one additional player into that tier because he's my number one player, and it's Austin Ekeler up against the Raiders. I think Austin Ekeler is going to go absolutely crazy against the Raiders. He did in the game they played last year. I seem to remember Austin Ekeler did really well, and I expect him to be just a target monster in this game. I like him a ton, but obviously Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, all these guys at the top, Derrick Henry that you have, Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry, makes perfect sense to be the S tier guys. I love Derrick Henry this week against the Giants.
So Derrick Henry, I think, is like a smash of all smashes. An expected fantasy points per game, which is really just a value of opportunity in a scale that's really easy to understand because we're staring at fantasy points all the time. Derrick Henry was number one in the NFL last year. And even though we know it was kind of injury based, Christian McCaffrey actually fell off from the pace, the absolutely torrid pace he'd been on in that same opportunity value metric at the end of, or the last time we saw him on the field, I should say, for CMC. So Derrick Henry really is kind of in a field of my own.
Mhm.
Jonathan Taylor, though, against a really porous defense here. He's probably just going to eat. They're going to be in positive game scripts, and Jonathan Taylor's probably going to pay off at that 101 right
Yeah.
away here.
Definitely. I completely agree. This game could be out of hand very quickly for the Indianapolis Colts. They could be winning by a million. And this game, the spread is, I think, the highest on the week, right? +8, at least what I saw yesterday, +8 or +8.5 for the Houston Texans. So this game's going to be bad for them. I think Jonathan Taylor is a very easy guy to put number one.
Yeah, just ahead of Derrick Henry, I should say, but a little bit ahead nonetheless. And when I say that, I'm basing it off half PPR, and we usually are pretty good about talking about discrepancies between full PPR, half PPR. You guys know
Yeah.
the drill. Players like Austin Ekeler, Christian McCaffrey will get a bump, whereas in standard leagues, zero PPR, Derrick Henry and even Taylor get bumps as well. Now we go into the A tier, which I actually have as a pretty big chunk of players. I have my player three, Christian McCaffrey. You have him up there in the tier one, all the
Mhm.
way through running back 14. I just think there's a ton of talent here. Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift, and Saquon Barkley, albeit in a really bad matchup for the Giants. Even Nick Chubb against the Carolina Panthers defense that was a little better than league average against the run. And even all the way down to Javonte Williams against Seattle, Dalvin Cook against Green Bay, Najee Harris against Cincinnati, and James Conner against Kansas City. If you're lucky to have two from this tier, I think you're in really, really good shape at the running back position.
Yeah, honestly, I think once you get to say running back, who we're going to talk about a little bit later, like around running back 18, you're really good. But after that, that's where things start to get a little bit spicy, right? So early on here, these running backs are looking great. I've seen some people that are a little bit worried about Javonte Williams in week one. I've looked at a bunch of rankings as well as while I was making my own, looking what other people are doing. And Javonte Williams, for some people, is ranked significantly lower. I don't understand that. He's going up against Seattle. He's your running back 11 inside of tier A. I don't really know why people don't like Javonte Williams, right? This is a smash matchup against Seattle. I'm a big fan of Melvin Gordon this year. I like Melvin Gordon a ton, but Javonte Williams is clearly in an amazing spot against Seattle, right? They're going to be running the ball a lot late, you would think, right?
They want him to be the guy. That's a direct quote from Melvin Gordon. I do actually think that Javonte Williams is the most precarious of these running backs from that 14 and up in running back ranking tier. Because against Seattle, it's not something where they have to go to Javonte Williams. Whereas Saquon Barkley, they have to get Saquon Barkley his touches. Nick Chubb, if the Browns want any chance of being competent with Jacoby Brissett, they have to get Nick Chubb his touches. Same with Kamara, same with Mixon, same with Eckler. With Javonte, they got Cortland Sutton, they got Jerry Jeudy, they've even got Melvin Gordon, but the talent we know is there. So I am including him, and I also want to give a shout out to James Conner, who we've been kind of banging the drum all offseason for, and now he gets this high Vegas implied total, even though they are on the underdog side against the Chiefs. He slides in there, but at my running back 15, right at the start of tier 3, I actually have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think that's probably pretty spicy compared to where you took him in fantasy drafts this year. Am I out of my mind to have him? Obviously, I have a bunch more players here. We'll get into them. But am I crazy to have Edwards-Helaire like creeping up into the high running back 2 range?
I don't think so, because the matchup is just so good, right? This is a matchup that on paper should be a very high scoring matchup between them and the Arizona Cardinals. Now, obviously, who knows what this running back rotation is going to look like, right? Could Clyde Edwards-Helaire be the clear number 1 back on this team? Yes. Could Isaiah Pacheco or whoever the fuck they want to roll out there really destroy some of his value? Yes, but it's week number 1. We don't know that yet. So I'm going to roll out Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the guy I assume is going to be seeing a majority of the touches in this backfield in what should be a relatively high-scoring game. So I completely understand why you have him ranked at 15. And I've told a lot of people in the comment section of these videos to start Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, and when I was looking at projection discrepancy compared to, say, expert consensus rankings that you see all over the industry, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, when you're looking at the Stokastic.com projections, the same DFS projections that have won people literally millions of dollars over on the DFS side and the sports betting side, when you create fantasy rankings off those projections, one of the biggest discrepancies in all of fantasy football for week 1 is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, again, because of the game environment. By the way, guys, there is so much info about fantasy football and about DFS, as I was talking about just a moment ago, that it can be kind of overwhelming. And we really believe that at Stokastic.com, we have simplified that process this year. We're making things a whole lot more user-friendly. So if you feel like you didn't get in on the DFS gold rush 5 or 6 years ago, I think now is really the best time to go check things out, especially over at Stokastic.com. We have a brand new offer, Scramble, promo code SCRAMBLE, SCRAMBLE at checkout. Gets you 7 days of absolutely everything we've got over at Stokastic Plus Premium for only $7. That's 70% off the original price. Everything we've got that's brand new in terms of the lineup generators, the player projections, the ownership projections, top stacks tool, a brand new start and sit tool, so much more. And you can also add on the Fantasy Cruncher add-on as well. It's not included in that base package, but if you get a full subscription, then you can add Fantasy Cruncher optimizers as well. Offer valid through Tuesday, September 13th, promo code SCRAMBLE. Check it out, guys. Okay, so this is where I think the running back position really gets interesting for people, where people are actually making decisions in their 12, 14, 16 team league. One player I'm kind of down on this week, but is still in tier 3, Leonard Fournette. I think Antonio Gibson is going to get the touches. And then we got to talk about this game, man. Chicago and San Francisco. Super bad weather and super low game total already. Do you trust David Montgomery? I have him mid-tier 3 here, and I still don't want to touch him if I can help it.
Yeah, I mean, technically the game script should be positive if it's like windy or it's raining, but at the end of the day, like the 49ers defense is amazing, in my opinion, and David Montgomery isn't that amazing. I mean, there's been a lot of talks about Montgomery as we get closer and closer to the season that they want to involve Khalil Herbert more, and it's starting to scare me. Now, again, are you going to sit David Montgomery for like Tony Pollard or something? No. But I am nervous to play David Montgomery, and I would be far from excited to have him in my lineup, but I would be quite nervous about what is going to happen. I think I would have him lower than running back 19, if I'm being honest with you. I just don't feel comfortable playing him in this matchup. I really think the 49ers, even if this is technically a low scoring game, they could still win by 14 points.
I think these pure volume running back twos, they look okay when you get to season long projections, but then you actually get into the game by game breakdowns and you're like, wait a minute, I don't want to play David Montgomery in the rain as like touchdown underdogs against the San Francisco 49ers, who were a top 5 defense against the run last year. I do think that at a certain point, and especially if you don't trust these projections on your fantasy platform too much, but if you look like a huge underdog for whatever reason, there is this boom bust wishy-washy tier in tier 3. I'll talk about players like Ramondre Stevenson, who obviously is more explosive than a player like David Montgomery, or at least in my opinion. Miles Sanders on an Eagles team that is surprisingly high in the odds to be the highest scoring team in the NFL. And even JK, don't call me limping Dobbins, because it looks like he's going to play week 1. And when he was on the field, he was one of the most efficient running backs in the NFL. Of course, Baltimore getting Lamar Jackson and playing the Jets. So this whole tier, I mean, even you can move down a little bit. Cordero Patterson to me, Damian Harris as well, Tony Pollard. This is where it starts to move from, yeah, I'm comfortable starting a running back to what does the rest of my roster look like, right? And what does the rest of my roster need in terms of floor and ceiling? That's really what's going to help me decide who to start.
Yeah, I mean, in my rankings, that'll be coming up on the Notorious Fantasy channel later in the week. Wink, wink. I think I have Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson back to back. I'm going to be completely honest with you. This is one of the most interesting parts of week 1, is trying to see the running back rotation there, because I think it's entirely possible that drive 1, it's Damian Harris the whole time. Drive 2, Ramondre Stevenson, back and forth the whole game. I think that's possible. And then I think we're going to end up in a situation that's either awful or very beneficial to both of them, because it's basically like a complete 50-50 split. Now, up against the Dolphins' run defense, this is a really good matchup. I'm a Dolphins fan. The Dolphins suck absolute ass up against the run. They literally get destroyed every time by some running back. Like, they lock down every wide receiver possible, but then the running backs just run train on us. So I think Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson are both pretty good this week. But if this was like, say, the final matchup against the Dolphins at the end of the year, then we'll actually know what the rotation is to where I can rank them more correctly. But I'm still fine with both of them this week. Not super excited, but I think they both have some upside.
So I trust you, especially our resident Dolphins expert, and you know they get gashed in the run game. But is it possible that there's a little emotionality, a little bias? Because I was looking at some of my favorite advanced metrics for the running back position, schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed, which is just the fantasy points allowed a defense had above or below an opponent's average. Did you know Miami was top 10 in the NFL? Like
Against
top hardest for the running back to score against. I was actually surprised by that. And I'm not saying that Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris are suddenly bad plays, but I also think if you're going to choose one, I think it's definitely Stevenson. I just think there's more downside than people may realize. Mac Jones is someone I'm going to be talking about in a later video on the Stokastic Fantasy Football channel later today. He actually has some surprising upside, because I actually think New England comes out and tries to pass more in that game. But this is the fun of week 1, Nick. Like, we really don't know these team identities like we think we do.
Yeah, I mean, and the numbers might just be skewed by the fact that for the first half of the year, we were getting eviscerated by the run. And then towards the end of the season, they started if you remember, they won like 8 games in a row. So they started playing really good against the run towards the end. So I guess when you average that all together, they were okay against the run. But yeah, I'm pretty nervous about our run defense. And while Brian Flores is gone, we're still using the same defensive coordinator who wants to run the same scheme. So.
Okay, that's very fair. So we're not going to really see a drastic change unless the personnel and the talent make a drastic change.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, let's talk about Cordero Patterson. Blanco in the chat just brought him up. That's tough, right? Chase Edmonds, I actually have him right at the start of my tier 4, and Cordero Patterson right at the end of tier 3, and I feel pretty scared about it. New Orleans has had a classically strong run defense in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. Again, against the running back position, no one was better than the New Orleans Saints last year. And Cordero Patterson was kind of a flash in the pan in terms of efficiency, fell off down the stretch. Is he just kind of a plug your nose and play kind of flex this week?
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing Cordero Patterson, I don't think you really are looking for the rushing upside, right? I don't expect Cordero Patterson to rush a bunch. I'm more thinking that maybe Cordero Patterson's going to go out wide, right? How many receivers on that team are even good enough that you can name them, right? They have Drake London, they have Kyle Pitts, and then outside of that, they have fantasy legend Brian Edwards, who everyone talked up last year. They have Olamide Zacchaeus. They have a couple of guys, but at the end of the day, there's two real targets, and then there's Cordero Patterson. I would personally rather start Chase Edmonds, though, but I do think Cordero Patterson is a start-worthy player this week, and I talked about this yesterday. I think the Atlanta Falcons are sneaky to potentially win this game. At least cover.
Ooh, spicy. He is the third best option. I put some respect on Alameda Zacchaeus' name, but he's going to be a third receiving option on that team that is likely to be, if not in games where they're playing from behind, they're going to be close games. We don't expect them to be playing with a touchdown lead very often, unless you're sneaky right here. I also include Tony Pollard in a likely shootout game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this final part of tier 3. I think he's in the start him with confidence category. I actually have him inside my top 25 running backs, ahead of players like A.J. Dillon, Chase Edmonds, who we mentioned, and a player who I actually really like, but I can't really move him up higher in the rankings based on my projections, Devin Singletary. How are you feeling about Dillon or Singletary in games where projected high totals, projected pretty close, but those teams typically pass a lot?
Yeah, I have told a lot of people to start Devin Singletary. I will ride out on the shield here. I think Devin Singletary is going to play good. I think he is. I think they're going to be in a high-scoring matchup, right? Do you agree with that? You think the Rams, even though they both have good defenses, this is going to be a high-scoring game tomorrow?
I hope so. I think that Vegas is hoping against anything. It becomes like a defensive shootout. A defensive slog, I should say. A defensive shootout.
Yeah.
What does that mean? A defensive slog, though, where two of the best defenses in the NFL get the better of maybe offenses that are a little bit sloppy. Remember, the preseason play for both of these teams in terms of overall snaps is incredibly low. So some rustiness on the offensive end, not actually the craziest thing to surmise. Ultimately, I think Stafford and the Rams and Allen and the Bills figure out a way to create a shootout, just like the Vegas totals are saying. Is there anybody else in your tier 3, the stardom with confidence, unless you're absolutely loaded with running backs tier?
Yeah, I really kind of like Dameon Pierce this week. I know the matchup is tough, but I talked myself into him. I think he's going to get a lot of catches in this game. I think a lot of people are sucking off Rex Burkhead for no reason. Rex Burkhead is a bum compared to Dameon Pierce. I love Dameon Pierce this week. I'm going to play him, but I don't love him enough to like have him ranked. You have him ranked running back 37. I don't have him ranked as like running back 20, right? He's just a guy that I'd put closer to the top of the C tier, near guys like Dillon, Edmonds, and Singletary. I definitely play him over Dillon this week. Again, I just hope that he is the pass catching back in this offense, because if this is a slaughter, then I could be wildly off and Dameon Pierce could be awful in this game.
I still think there is a lot of things to figure out. I'm not saying Dameon Pierce isn't the second coming of Jesus Christ. I'm saying we just haven't made sure of it yet. Let me ask you, would you play Dameon Pierce over Elijah Mitchell?
No.
Okay. Would you play Dameon Pierce over Josh Jacobs playing the Chargers?
100%.
100%. That's really that's like true flip a coin territory for me. All right. How about Dameon Pierce over James Robinson?
Definitely. Like, we can talk about James Robinson right now, unless you want to keep doing this game where we keep going down on the running backs, but going down on the running backs.
You seem to love it so much. Maybe we should just play a little more. Okay. Dameon Pierce or no. Go. Let's talk J-Rob.
Yeah. Okay. So I think James Robinson's going to play. Seems pretty clear that he's going to play, but I think he's going to get like under 5.5 touches. I take the under. Like, I don't really know why you would roll him out week 1 and just fire him at all cylinders. Now, do I think by week 6 he could just screw Travis Etienne? Yes. But do I think in week number 1 that he's going to do that against Washington? No. There's no reason to do that. We saw Cam Akers come back last year, and the guy starts off slow. It's going to be a nice, slow, and steady race for James Robinson. I think he could, at the end of the season, legitimately be great. But right now, I don't want anything to do with James Robinson.
Yeah. So how are you feeling about how the touch share winds up? So you're saying that you think it's more like 60-40 or even closer to 70-30 Travis Etienne in terms of overall touches in the backfield for Jacksonville?
Well, if we're talking week 1, yes. But I think as James Robinson gets healthier and healthier, that he's going to be playing more. So I think maybe by the end of the season, it's closer to 55-45, 50-50. But week 1, man, like I really just don't see James Robinson being valuable at all in week 1. Could be wrong. Maybe he's fully healthy, right? And I just don't know. But I don't think that he is, personally, based upon the timeline.
I think that's pretty rational because Travis Etienne is actually, since coming back from the foot injury last year, has been the more healthy of the two,
Yes.
the one who's been able to play with the team more often, and is the one who's probably more up to speed with Doug Peterson's new system in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
I would kind of put Etienne in this mid tier with maybe the players like Elijah Mitchell, maybe a Michael Carter in there as well. I'd probably play Melvin Gordon if I had him over there. This is the top end of the tier 4 running back, the C tier, the beginning of the running back 3 tier. But I don't think they're premier options, either of them, against a Washington defense that, yes, has a lot of holes, but is still a home favorite in a low total game. Anybody else in this mid tier, like we're talking running back 25-40, who you actually have a lot of confidence in, and maybe one who, if you can help it, you're actually just keeping him on the bench?
Yeah, Brees Hall, he's running back 40. I'm sitting him 100%. Same thing
Huh.
goes with Michael Carter. I really don't want anything to do with either of these guys in week number 1. This is a matchup where look, they're playing Joe Flacco against the Ravens. I'm a big revenge game guy, but Joe Flacco stands no chance. They literally should have played they should play Mike White or Chris Strevler, the guy from the fucking CFL, as the starting quarterback because they both might be better than Joe Flacco. Now, if we're talking wide receivers real quick, Elijah Moore is probably going to dominate with Joe Flacco because he's just going to lock onto him. But these running backs are going to struggle. And I don't think week 1, Brees Hall is going to be this crazy workhorse running back that people drafted him to be. And even if he is going up against the Ravens defense when they're down and maybe they want to use Michael Carter on pass catching downs, no bueno. No bueno. So I don't want anything to do with either of them this week. And then a guy that, unless you got anything to say here?
No, I actually pretty much agree with you. The talent's there for Brees Hall, guys. Like, if you just see a day,
Agreed.
there was a day when Nick Chubb, as a rookie, had 3 touches for over 100 yards, including a 90-plus yard touchdown. Sometimes these players just burst through the wall that their coaches place for them. Does it happen week 1? I think that's a low probability. Continue on.
Yeah, and then the guy I'm going to play, I'm going to continue to ride with my guys. I'm playing Rashad Penny now, not over like a lot of these guys, but I think if you're in a deeper league, a 14-team league that I'm in, I'm playing Rashad Penny because I think Rashad Penny is going to be the clear number 1 back this week. I don't think that Kenneth Walker is going to play this week, and if he does, he's coming off a hernia injury. It seems very unlikely that he's going to be 100% good to go, and then you see Travis Homer be the backup. So I think the team's just going to give the ball to Rashad Penny. Now, this game is going to be a slaughter. They're going to be down, but Pete Carroll does not care. That's the one thing about Pete Carroll. He does not give a single fuck about what the score is in the game. He just likes to play football like it's 1970. So he's just going to keep handing the ball to Rashad Penny. So I think Penny could easily really destroy his expectations, and I'm excited to play him on Monday Night Showdown. But I think Rashad Penny's just all right. I would definitely play, someone asked in the chat, Dylan or Penny. I would play Dylan, most likely.
Yeah. And you know what? That is a great way to do this. If you've got Rashad Penny, he probably is a running back 3 or running back 4, depending on how you drafted your squad around him. And you don't really have to play him unless your league is like one of these 9 flex leagues or, has a four-teamer or whatever. Every league is different. But I do think a player like A.J. Dillon in a much higher Vegas total game, and a game that actually has a little bit of shootout potential with this new look Minnesota offense possibly pushing the tempo, and the fact that Green Bay just has to get Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon on the field together this year, I do think that Dillon has sort of a touch floor in a better game environment that I actually want to play him over Penny, though Penny was really efficient down the stretch last year.
Yeah, here, wait, real quick. Someone asked Josh Jacobs or Penny. I would go Penny.
Okay. I actually have Jacobs above Penny. It's
Okay.
very a flattening out of the projections at this point. We're talking about half a point difference in a median projection. I think the ceiling is much higher for Penny than it is for Jacobs.
Agreed. That's why I would go with Penny.
That's why you're playing him in DFS, right? On that showdown slate. That'll be fun.
Captain, baby.
Guys, if you are watching on YouTube right now, you see the banner at the bottom of the screen. Underdog Fantasy has had some of the coolest tournaments in fantasy football history this summer, and we are still within the time to get in there. Check it out. The best ball streets are the best streets to be in. You just draft your team and win huge prizes. The Best Ball Mania 3 tournament is filling up very, very fast. It will fill up by tomorrow. And if you use promo code Stokastic, Stokastic, you can get up to a $100 first match deposit bonus. And we will also kick in a Stokastic Best Ball and Fantasy Football draft kit, our rankings for your draft if you're still getting into it. And of course, we got a start sit tool and a strength of schedule tool and all the content you need to help you out and win your leagues this year over on the Stokastic Fantasy Football page. All that in the draft kit, absolutely free when you use promo code Stokastic. This is the tier 5, the D tier if you're doing it that way. I actually think there's a lot of upside here, but a lot of players where I'm like, I don't know. Are you starting James Cook in week 1?
No.
Are you possibly starting Alexander Madison, Kenneth Gainwell? If you're doing projections, they look okay, actually. But confidence-wise, I've got none.
Yeah, I mean, out of all these guys, like, I'll just name them off. James Cook, Madison, Gainwell, Davis, Henderson, Sony Michel, Rashad White, Pacheco, Mostert. I think Mostert provides the most upside out of any of these guys. And I think that he might have the most fair amount of touches out of all these guys, right? Because it might, while I talk about Edmonds, and I love Edmonds this year because I think his pass catching upside is just significantly better than Mostert, wouldn't surprise me if this team tried to run the ball down the throat of the Patriots and Raheem Mostert saw a decent amount of carries. And all it takes for Mostert is like literally one carry and he can go 60 yards. He's very fast. So again, I'm not telling you to start Mostert, but if any of these guys was to pop off and have a crazy game, I think it would be Mostert or Mike Davis if J.K. Dobbins is hobbled. They did bring in Kenyon Drake, but that was like about a week ago. So I don't think that he's going to have a lot of involvement week 1. If Dobbins really is on a peg leg, I think Mike Davis could go crazy.
I don't think that Dobbins is limping, by the way. That's my take.
Whoa.
I don't think he is. But I actually think that they are going to limit the touches. I think it is going to be a true RBBC there. I think Kenyon Drake is going to have the least of the touches. But Mike Davis, if you told me you're going to get the 3rd most rushing touches because Lamar Jackson's getting his in the rushing game on the Ravens, does that really excite you from a fantasy football perspective? Now, he could fall into the end zone. Absolutely. Davis actually had some efficient weeks a couple of years back, but I'd much rather play Darrell Henderson. Honestly,
yeah,
I'd much rather even take a wild chance on Rashad White as well. What do you think about Isaiah Pacheco? Is that just like a crazy off the wall pick?
Well, I get why people drafted him. There's no way I'm playing him though. Like, I really think that this week we're going to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire be the guy. Pacheco is, look, this is a high scoring matchup. So if you want to talk yourself into some crazy punt play in DFS, maybe you play Pacheco. But unless you're in a 82 team fantasy football league, there's no reason to start Pacheco, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah. Okay. So this is one of the wildest situations for me because I think the most likely outcome with Kansas City is that they finally figure out how to use Clyde Edwards-Helaire. One thing that was kept way under wraps is how not healthy he was last year. He came into training camp. He had to have his gallbladder removed. He was 160 something pounds. You can't play NFL football at the running back position hurting like that and at that low of a weight.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, it's great that he made it back, but maybe we finally get Clyde Edwards-Helaire after his first fully healthy offseason with a chance to really do something in one of the best offenses in the league. I think we have some really interesting questions here. We'll start with Max Bolognese. It's a little early it's a little early for a little meat sauce, but yeah, I could be convinced. Which two would you guys start? Montgomery, Ezekiel Elliott, Chase Edmonds, and I presume James Robinson here. Based on your rankings, Lepri, start with you.
Okay, so I'm definitely going Edmonds, and then I'm going on the upside of Zeke. I think Montgomery is the safer play over Zeke. I think Zeke could be in for literally an awful matchup. Remember last time they played up against the Bucks, he got slaughtered in that game. He stood no chance. This year, maybe things are a little bit different. Again, I think Montgomery is the safer play, but my lean would be Zeke and Edmonds. What do you
I actually think Zeke is the safer play because the
think?
volume is about the same for David Montgomery and Ezekiel Elliott. Say what you want about Tony Pollard's talent. Jerry Jones and the coaching staff believe that this team runs as Zeke runs. And then you got the fact that we got plenty of points expected in that game, plenty of red zone trips for both the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys. Remember, guys, if the Bucks have some sort of shootout game where Brady throws for 3 touchdowns, that actually increases the chances that Dallas scores a lot. Even if they don't
Yes.
win the game, they'll actually head to the red zone more often on average. So for me, Elliott is the easy one. And then you got to look at your matchup. If you look like you just need a floor game, a 10-point half PPR game, I think Montgomery's your man. If you're looking for that 16 to 20 point upside, for sure it's Edmonds for me. For sure.
Gotcha.
Montgomery in just a terrible situation, just a pure volume play. So for me, it is Elliott and Edmonds. Unless you feel like a huge favorite, then take the 8 to 9 points you most likely get from David Montgomery. Man, that Bears team, I am not excited. We kind of reached the point where if at this point you're starting a running back, something very strange is going on. Like, we're not starting Rex Burkhead. We're not starting Khalil Herbert. I've heard Damian Williams might actually have some serious playing time possibilities in Atlanta. The
Yeah, I've
team
heard that too.
that is, quote, sneaky good. Follow him at Notorious FNCSY. That's his quote for the last 2 days. I actually think Damian Williams, if you still have a draft as a late round, final round pick, is fine, because I have heard some rumor that he's going to get some run.
Yeah.
But in that last tier, check it out. I honestly think Jeff Wilson Jr. of that San Francisco team, heavy favorites against Chicago, might be the one that I'd be like, what the heck? It's a 3-flex league. I got to do it.
Yeah, I think I would go with Zamir White as that guy. Like, again, I was someone that you asked 3 months ago. I'm like, holy shit, Josh Jacobs, they're going to run him into the dirt. He's going to play great. Now, the further and further we get, the closer and closer we get to the season, we're knocking on the door right now. Seems like they really want to use a committee. Now, I could be wrong, but I think Zamir White could be a very interesting play, because I really just don't think Amir Abdullah has the juice to really overtake Zamir White. I think Zamir White is a far more talented player compared to him. Again, I hope Josh Jacobs is the workhorse back, because people were drafting him in like the 5th round. I hope your pick paid off for you, but Zamir White is in a pretty good spot. And make sure you guys hit the like on the stream, by the way. I don't know how many likes we have because I don't have it pulled up, but there's 193 of us watching, which I love. I really appreciate that. Make sure you hit that like button.
Yeah, it does really help us out. All these comments and going back and forth. We love doing this. We genuinely do. We cannot believe how lucky we are, and we're back at it, and we're stoked. But helping us out in that YouTube algorithm game really does take us a long way. Even if you don't sign up for Underdog, which you should totally do using promo code Stokastic, or check out that Scramble code to get the DFS pass, $7 for 7 days. Even just that subscribe button, that notification bell, it really helps us out. And guys, I see a lot of great wide receiver questions, like ones that I really want to answer, but we're going to do the wide receiver position tomorrow. And if you have some really tough flex questions related to Thursday night players as well, we'll answer those on the stream. We'll be back at 10 a.m. tomorrow on the Stokastic Fantasy Football channel, breaking down our wide receiver tiers just the same way. I did see a few pure running back questions. I believe it was Etienne or Breece Hall. Where would you go there?
Yeah, I would go ETN over Breece Hall 100%. I think ETN is going to be the superior back in week 1 compared to James Robinson. And Breece Hall, I think there's going to be negative game script for him, especially if Michael Carter is the guy catching passes on the team. So I'm going to lean with, it's Edmonds or Breece Hall. I'm going Edmonds.
Yeah, I misspoke. No worries about it, but I want to make sure it's right. Edmonds or Breece Hall, because I think that changes things. Or am I wrong?
No, it doesn't change things at all. I'm going Edmonds. I don't want to play Breece Hall, so I'm going Edmonds.
Actually, now that I'm like looking at the numbers here, yeah, I'll wait with Brees Hall and kind of hope I'm wrong too. I think he's still a sneaky good DFS play as well. Yeah, Montgomery or Damian Pierce. Give me Montgomery, and I'll probably plug my nose. You're doing it. You're doing Damian Pierce day one. Don't live your life scared. Live your life like Notorious Fantasy. I love it, man. Because the
Yeah,
projections aren't that far apart. Break it down.
yeah, yeah. I love Damian Pierce compared to Montgomery because look, Montgomery is like just wrapping your team up in like 3 condoms, right? You play him, he scores like 10 points. Wow. Pierce is either going to score 4 points or 16 or 17 or 18, right? He's going to either be really shit. Like, have you ever seen that clip where the soccer coach is like, sometimes he really shit, sometimes he really good? That's basically what Damian Pierce is going to be. So I like Damian Pierce here over Montgomery. Again, Montgomery's the much safer play, but I go Pierce. And Ron, this is live, by the way. This is not a. I don't know how else we'd be talking to chat if this wasn't live.
Hey,
but yeah, Damian Pierce.
Speaking of chat, Derek Just, man, thank you so much for the super chat. If you send us a super chat, we're definitely going to check it out, even if it has the different positions, then we might be breaking it down. So Derek says, have Judy in my first flex. Second flex, who would you start? Penny, AJ Dillon, Tyler Lockett, Tony Pollard, or Brandon Ayuk? Full PPR. Hey, by the way, Derek, this looks like a pretty solid situation to be in the second flex position. Personally, I want AJ Dillon because the game environment and the game situation gives him a lot of outs, a lot of ways to succeed. Lockett, I'm sorry, the situation with the quarterback just really has me concerned. Pollard, the situation with Ezekiel Elliott, every single week, no matter how much he is a darling from an efficiency standpoint, has me concerned. And Ayuk, this wet, rainy game in Chicago, even if the San Francisco 49ers win, they may not do it with Ayuk. Way too wide of a range of outcomes unless you really need the ceiling play. Oh, I see Penny there as well. I have AJ Dillon a tier ahead, so that is the call for me at the second flex.
Yeah, so if Ayuk was playing realistically in this game and there's no weather issues, I would probably say Ayuk, right? If there was no worry that maybe Lance, the ball might slip out of his fucking hands and he'll look like a cartoon character running around trying to pick the thing up, I would go with AJ Dillon as well. I agree with you. I think AJ Dillon has the best matchup, like you talked about. The Minnesota Vikings game, this could be very high scoring. I'm a big Aaron Jones guy. I've banged the drum for him all offseason. I really think Aaron Jones is the significantly better player than AJ Dillon. But I do think in this type of a game where they could be running the ball, and especially Dillon might just see a crazy amount of dump offs with Devontae Adams now gone. We could see that. Call. So I'm going to go ahead and lean with AJ Dillon. I like Lockett. Like if you just are down by a million, you throw Lockett in and he could just go crazy or he could score 0. But my lean would be AJ Dillon. And the only player relatively close in my head would be Penny. So I'd go Dillon personally.
If you're at the flex 3 position and considering AJ Dillon or Tyler Lockett or Tony Pollard, you done well. You done well. I like your team already. I saw a couple questions here. Oh, this is an iteration on one we did already. Real quick, Etienne, sorry, everyone, or Edmonds.
I would go with Travis Etienne. I like Etienne better than Edmonds. I think Etienne, again, I really just believe that this is going to be heavily favored toward Etienne compared to Robinson. So I'm going Etienne. The Patriots, they scare me more in the run game compared to the pass. So I think Edmonds going to have a good game. He'll be just fine. But I definitely roll with Etienne. I think he has more upside against Washington.
I agree here. Edmonds against a Patriots defense that still is strong. I think it's going to be a little closer to league average in the schedule-adjusted fantasy points against metric I was talking about earlier, but I still think that I go with Etienne, the upside. And, I was going to take this as a talking point, but you actually brought it up right away. You thought that James Robinson was going to play, but somewhere around 5 to 8 touches. I think that's very realistic, and that means Etienne in the passing game and in the rushing game should get plenty of work. Right above it here, we see start 2, J.K. Dobbins, Tony Pollard, Breece Hall. For me, it's Tony Pollard, and if you can believe it, J.K. Dobbins.
Oh, this question disgusts me. I'm going J.K. Dobbins, Tony Pollard as well. I don't like Tony Pollard at all. I've hated the guy all offseason, but look, I just don't want to play Breece Hall in his first game against the fucking Ravens defense. So I'm going to go Dobbins. Look, I think even if Dobbins is limping, he could limp into the end zone twice. So I like Dobbins and Pollard.
Yeah. I I think he's ready, guys. I think that Ravens team, by the way, I think that Ravens team could win the AFC. That's my dark horse. My bet that you shouldn't bet is Ravens plus 2,000 to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the Ravens are more of a dark bird over a dark horse, but I agree.
Oh my gosh. All right, we'll take one more question. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Yeah, I got to get out of here after that. This is just too, it just stinks in here. Guys, you're playing. Did someone say Eli Mitchell or Barkley? Saquon Barkley, guys.
At
That's
Barkley.
not. Eli Mitchell had a great year, but there was a lot of question marks and a lot of history of Kyle Shanahan switching up his running back usage year to year, where I'm still betting on Saquon Barkley. Damian Pierce or Zeke, that's really easy to me. It's Zeke all the way. How about you?
I'm going. I'd play Zeke probably.
Yo, okay. You hesitated. You hesitated. Uh, Dobbins or Edmonds from Batmanista.
Ooh, it's like female Batman or
Yeah,
Batman
or
the
like a
barista.
Maxinista, like being able to become Batman at TJ Maxx, like a Batmanista.
Okay, funny joke there,
But
but
oh,
I would
okay,
go. I would go Edmonds. I again, I really worry about Dobbins' health. Maybe you don't seem like you care at all, so you're gonna go Dobbins, but I'd go Edmonds.
yeah, and maybe I'm just getting too excited for DFS and GPPs and that stuff. And you should definitely check out Stokastic.com and the promo code Scramble if you are. But Dobbins, I think, has way more touchdown upside than people realize. You guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us this fine Wednesday morning. We will be back tomorrow talking wide receivers. And as always, if you leave us a chat, we'll talk to you. Hey, thanks so much there at the very end. I Kunak, sorry if I butchered that, for the super chat. Yeah, it really helps us out, guys, when you like, subscribe. Of course, leave us a super chat. Subscribe to the Stokastic DFS Pass with promo code Scramble, or get in those best ball streets over on Underdog Fantasy with promo code Stokastic. Back tomorrow with real NFL football on the docket, talking wide receiver tiers with my buddy Nick Lepri. Follow him at Notorious FNTSY. Okay, put your flag plant on one week one running back performance. You're just starting him no matter what you feel about his projection. You're just going no matter what. All systems go for this one running back.
Yeah, it's gonna be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. YOLO. You only live once. You only play fantasy once. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is very good, and I think that he's going to actually eat this year and play a lot better. So I'm going CEH again. I love the matchup. And then real quick, the person who donated asked a question. I would not trade Hunt and Schultz for Mark Andrews based upon what you have said.
Agreed. And I'm going with Yo Joe, which is you only Jaguars once. Antonio Gibson in a very unique circumstance because of suddenly being thrust back into the RB1 role at home as a favorite against the Jaguars, who are the 25th worst team against the running back last year. I'm starting him even if it doesn't feel that great after a tumultuous offseason. That's it for the Stokastic Fantasy Football channel. Follow him at Notorious FNTSY. I'm at Draftaholic. For Nick, I'm Matt Savoca. We will see you guys later.